this evening to introduce you to one of the most fantastic games ever created, in my opinion, The Legend of Zelda, for original Nintendo Entertainment System. This game is absolutely one of my all-time favorites, and I've been playing video games almost as long as I've been alive, for over 35 years, and I think, honestly, that when a lot of people think about the original Legend of Zelda, they think about the immersion and the size of the open world and the story and, the saving the princess and all this nonsense, but honestly, I think the true reason why this game is still worth playing today in 2022 is the fact that it is simply action-packed. It is an action-packed action-adventure game, and it's because of the amount and the quality of its action that it still holds up today. Despite being over 35 years old. And that's old. And yeah, it does have some of the jank that is common to very old games. You will have moments if you're, going into it blind where you're not sure what to do next and the game, maybe doesn't tell you completely. That being said, The Legend of Zelda is actually better than a lot of its brethren at that, because it does have hints, it does have guidance, it has quite a bit more than a lot of similar and similarly aged games had. So this originally came out in 1986 in Japan for the Famicom Disk System, an add-on to the Famicom system. It was adapted into a cartridge and brought to North America a little over a year later in 1987, and I believe it came to Europe after that. But regardless of when it came out in your country, it remains a fantastic game today. And I'm going to put more details in the description about how you can obtain this game today and play it, but for most people, the easiest way to play this game will be if you have a Nintendo Switch and you have any active tier of Nintendo Switch Online subscription. You can then simply download the Nintendo Entertainment System Nintendo Switch Online app from the eShop, launch it, and The Legend of Zelda will be one of the games on the list that you can select. There's also a special version, which is really just a save state on their emulator that will start you with a bunch of equipment and health and stuff like that, but I honestly don't recommend that you do that, because with this game it's more about the journey and less about the end result, and you do lose a lot of that if you start midway. So I would recommend you start from the very beginning. And I will do that in just a moment, but I just want to quickly mention, my name's Aaron. I go by YYR online or YYR57695 on Twitch. I am a beginner Zelda streamer, a speedrunner, and also I'm somewhat adept at Dance Dance Revolution, and you can see me usually playing one of those two games when I stream. And I also create my own games, arcade-style games, and sadly haven't done much of it this year, but next year hopefully will be better. You can check that stuff out at yyrgames.com. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and take my NES Classic controller that came with my NES Classic Mini. That's another way you can play this game, but I don't know how accessible it is now, because it's been off store shelves for a few years now. But that and if you want to own a digital copy of this game on either Nintendo 3DS or Wii U, for about 6 more months you have the option of purchasing it on their eShops for $5. The eShops are closing after that, so that's going to cut things off. But anyway, I went ahead and pressed start. The first step is to simply register your name. You can put in any name you want. However, I would very much recommend against using the name Zelda, because if you do, you will automatically start the game in the second quest, which is supposed to be what happens after you finish the game. The second quest features all new dungeon layouts and is much more challenging. So just don't use the name Zelda. Link is the official name, but really when you do this, you're only naming your save file, not so much your character, because the name is not used in the game at all. Just this selection screen is the only place you will see your name. So that's it. Don't think too hard about what you name your save file. When you start the game, you are dropped right here into one of the largest overworlds to date, 1986 being the date. And this first start screen here doesn't have any enemies or really much to do, so it's a good place to get acquainted with the game's movement. The game's movement is on the 4 cardinal axes only. There is no diagonal movement in this game, and that goes for both you and any enemies that you encounter. Everything happens in just the 4 cardinal directions. If you try to move diagonally, you will simply move in, I think vertical takes priority. That's about it, really. You're going to notice this hole up there. It looks like a hole in the environment. This is the first of the game's caves that you will encounter. The overworld has all kinds of caves where someone talks to you, and then usually you can obtain an item, get some money, etc. In this first of the game's caves, you are given the sword. This is the primary weapon in the game. Now I'll introduce the controller to you. The D-pad obviously is how you will move around. The A button is your sword button. You press it and you will swing your sword directly in front of you. Now, if your life gauge is completely full, as it is right now, you will also throw an energy version of your sword. It will go all the way to the edge of the screen, or until it hits something. Now, the energy version of your sword is just as powerful as your actual sword. However, it will affect most of the enemies that the sword would have. There are just a few enemies in the game that it will not affect. That being said, don't get too used to using the energy sword, because for the majority of this game, your life meter will not be full. That said, there's nothing more to do in here. I'll just quickly explain the other buttons. The B button is used for many other kinds of equipment, none of which we have yet. If you press the start button, you'll bring up the inventory screen, and this is where you can select what item you will use the B button for at the moment. Currently, we have none. If you would like to pause the game without going to the inventory screen, you can use the select button for that, and then again to unpause. And that's it. That's all the buttons. Wasn't it nice when we had such simple controllers? I will also mention that each screen of The Legend of Zelda is like its own self-contained little environment. Once you leave the screen and enter a new one, you are basically entering a new environment. Monsters cannot follow you from one screen to another. That's it. These 4 Octoroks, for example, they live on this screen and this screen only. Obviously, oops. Obviously, you can swing the sword to hit them, and if you get hit, you take damage. Now, you'll also notice it kind of looks like Link has a shield there. And guess what? It can reflect certain attacks, such as the rocks that these guys spit. However, direct contact with an enemy, the shield will not protect you from. The shield is always active when you are not swinging your weapon. You will notice he moves his shield away when he swings the sword. So, if you are not attacking, the shield will automatically block things like these rocks that the Octoroks will spit out. However, if you're swinging your sword at the time the rock hits you, you will take damage just like that. Now, it's worth mentioning real quick, you know, obviously you take damage as you get hit with things. If you lose all of your health, you will see the game over screen. But honestly, the penalty for losing the game is not that big in The Legend of Zelda. If you go ahead and select continue, you will be returned to the start screen. You will be restored to 3 hearts. That's notable because even if you increase the maximum life, you will still only be restored to 3 hearts. But don't worry, there are ways to restore your health further. And you will not lose any of your money, any of your items, anything like that, any of your progress. All of that remains. So the penalty for failing in this game is not significant. Obviously, some of the defeated enemies are going to come back too, but that's alright. Let's start exploring the world. The world of Hyrule has all kinds of environments. It's really fun to explore. There's forests, there's beaches, there's graveyard, everything you can imagine. Yes, enemies will occasionally drop items such as that rupee. Rupees are the money in this game. Any item in this game you can pick up simply by walking over it. Blue rupees are worth 5. I'll just go north for now. Now, some enemies will appear when you enter the scene, but others will come out of the ground, or appear in even different ways than that. And then you have this annoying jerk that pops out of the water, I believe his name is Zora, and shoots fireballs at you. The fireballs are one of the things that cannot be blocked by your shield. However, there is a bigger shield in this game that might block some things that the small shield does not. Some enemies, like that blue Octorok, take more than 1 hit to defeat. Picking up those little hearts restores 1 heart worth of health. And if I cross this bridge... that doesn't quite look like the cave we saw earlier. That's because this is the entrance to level 1, which is the first dungeon in this game. Now, I didn't actually mention what the goal of the game is. The goal of this game is to rescue Princess Zelda, who's been taken captive by the big bad, the evil wizard Ganon. And in order to get into level 9, which is the dungeon where Zelda is held captive, you need to collect the 8 pieces of the Triforce that are hidden in the other 8 dungeons, levels 1 through 8. Once you've done so, you'll be able to enter level 9. What's really neat about this game is that while some of the dungeons and some of the progress in the dungeons are gated by, you need a certain item, other than that, you can complete the dungeons in any order you like, which is very unusual for a game in 1986. So the dungeons operate much like the overworld in the fact that all the screens are their own separate little world. These bats shouldn't pose too much of a threat. Some items in the dungeons will appear once you have cleared the room of enemies, like this key. And you can see that door up there has a keyhole on it. But you know what? I'm going to explore the dungeon a little bit further before I unlock that door. And here we have some skeletons. A perennial favorite in dungeons, yes. One of them happens to be carrying a key. Occasionally you will find enemies that are carrying items, and they will simply drop the item when defeated. There may be a way to obtain the item without defeating the enemy. You don't necessarily need to defeat all enemies. You can walk past some of them if you feel compelled to do so. However, as I mentioned, some rooms have items that will only appear after you have defeated all the enemies. Fairies restore 3 hearts. If you pick up the watch, all enemies in the room or on the current screen will be frozen in place and cannot give you any damage even if you walk into them. Now, if you hit an enemy and you attack it on the same axis that it is moving on, you will knock it back. If you attack it on the opposite axis, it will not be knocked back. That information might help you later. I didn't actually need to defeat all of these bats, but that's just, you know, I played a lot of video games. Now you might notice that item I picked up, which is the compass, there's a little mini-map in the upper left corner of the screen, you might have noticed. The green dot is Link's location. When I picked up the compass, a flashing red dot was added to the mini-map. This is the current location of the Triforce piece in this dungeon. That is your goal. It is your aim to get to that room and obtain the Triforce. And of course, this is a video game after all. Every Triforce piece is guarded by some sort of terrible creature. Now, I will also mention, if you press start to go to your inventory screen, there is an auto map in this game. Remember, very ahead of its time for 1986, yes? The auto map will show you the rooms that Link has already visited. So you can use this to help you narrow down where you have to go versus where you've already been. You can also see where the doors are that you haven't entered yet. Now, if you clear a room of enemies and then return to it, the first several times you return to it, as long as you don't go too far away, the enemies will not respawn. However, eventually they will. If you leave one enemy alive, or just a number of enemies less than what started there, that number of enemies will still be there when you return to the room. So if you want to encounter fewer enemies in general, leave one enemy alive on every screen in the overworld. You'll notice the door shut behind me. There are several doors in the underworld that will shut behind you when you enter a room, and in general, they will open again once you defeat all the enemies. In general, but not always. You'll notice a lot of these enemies have their own unique movement patterns, like those jellies. Wait a minute, that door didn't open when I defeated them all. See, now here's one of these NES jank kind of things. Some rooms have either hidden passages or shutter doors that will not open until you push a block in the room. There's only one block here. It pushed, and now the door is open. Sometimes you'll find hints. This one refers to this specific dungeon. He's telling us that the eastmost peninsula of this dungeon is where the Triforce is. However, some hint rooms that you encounter, and this goes for the overworld too, some hint rooms will give you hints that are about completely different locations versus the one that you're in now. They could be referring to dungeon entrances, they could be referring to monsters that you may encounter and their weak points, or something entirely different. There are even some hint rooms that don't give you any useful information at all. What you can see across the room on the floor here is the dungeon map. It does not complete your mini-map, your auto-map on the inventory screen. However, you will notice that the mini-map in the upper left corner is completely filled in now. However, I will warn you, there are a few instances where there are rooms in the dungeon that are not shown on the mini-map, even if you have the map. These Gorias are most easily dispatched when you can throw your sword, so it is helpful to keep your health up when possible. Your shield will block those boomerangs, and you may have also just noticed, items do disappear if you do not pick them up within a certain amount of time. Except for keys and other items that appear when you clear a room, those do not disappear. You have plenty of time to get those. Now, in general, each dungeon will have at least one special item or treasure that you will find very useful. Another thing you will encounter in the dungeons are traps. That is the name given to these 4 things you see in the corner here. Traps will close in on you if they see that you are between them, like so. The easiest way to get through the traps is to simply run through them. There's only 1 movement speed in this game, and it's good enough. The traps cannot close when they're resetting, and that's how you get past them in that case. Remember what I said about pushing a block? That's the block to push, generally, when you see a diamond shape of blocks and a stairwell through it. There are 2 kinds of basements in the dungeon. One kind goes to another location in the dungeon. The other has a treasure. You will always find 4 of those bats. Hey look, I have a bow. Now I can go to the inventory and... Wait a minute, I can't do anything. That is because, in order to use the bow, you need to get arrows first. Wonder where I can obtain those. There are lots of things in this game that are multi-layered. Did I mention this game is great? The original 1987 cartridge came with a manual, and the manual actually had full instructions on how to reach level 1 and get through it. That's because they felt, you know, it would help a lot of folks get through that first dungeon and get a handle on what the game is about. Some enemies take even more than 2 hits to defeat. Fortunately, you can obtain a more powerful sword. Oh look, bombs! Those are super useful. Not only are they fun to use to blow enemies up, and they're also much more powerful than a sword swing, they can also open up certain paths. For example, if I go back to this dungeon room, you will notice that's a big shortcut. I wonder if a speedrunner might use that to save time. There are also some passages in dungeons that require you bomb in order to open. Although generally you'll see those in the later dungeons. These creepy-looking hands are called wall masters. If one grabs you, it will drag you back to the beginning of the dungeon. Not recommended, obviously. That growling sound you hear, that means that the dungeon boss is in an adjoining room. Looking at our mini-map, there's only one choice, and we're about to go there. This is the dungeon boss of level 1. He has 1 attack. You're looking at it. These fireballs are pretty easy to dodge. The only problem is you have to get up close in order to attack him. Fortunately, the fireballs only do half a heart worth of damage to you, so unless you're on your last legs when you get here, you can generally just kind of tank your way through. Like so. He doesn't take a whole lot of punishment before he goes down. He leaves behind a heart container, as all the dungeon bosses do. This extends your life meter by 1 heart. And now we have the first piece of the Triforce. 1 down, 7 to go. I'll mention that newer revisions of this game do not have that flashing effect that you just saw. What I'm actually running right now is a ROM of the original NES version, as released in 1987. Oops. The combat does take some getting used to, especially, you know, using the shield, but you get used to it after a while. Might as well do some more exploring in our fun little overworld, right? In general, you want to take your time a little bit, because when you have enemies that come out of the ground like those, they can surprise you if you are just trying to run. For example, stopping moving prevented me from running into that dude. Now, this overworld is full of things to explore and lots of monsters, but it's also full of secrets. In particular, the bombs are extremely helpful at uncovering some of these secrets. And, you know, you'll find clues in the environment. For example, you have this big rock here that's just kind of in the way and looks like it might be fun to blow up. If I put a bomb here, all of a sudden there's a cave entrance. There are only a few of these rooms in the overworld, but they're extremely helpful because you can collect a heart container in them. The other item you see there is red medicine. Medicine will fill your health meter completely, regardless of how full it is when you use it. The blue medicine can be used only once, the red twice. It becomes the blue medicine when you use it once. However, medicine can be purchased, heart containers cannot. So, in most cases, you'll want to choose the heart container. If you don't choose the heart container in this room, there is no way to get it. At least not for this playthrough. Ah, the sounds of the beach. Ow. Ow. In general, RNG is pretty good about giving you hearts when you're hurt. It isn't always. But it generally is. Huh, what did we find here? What old woman? And why is she interested in reading? Another mystery. But rest assured, that piece of paper is pretty important. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of jank that will be extremely helpful to you. We're almost in the upper right corner of the map, but not quite. Huh. These enemies don't seem to take any damage. Very strange. Huh. What? I just walked through the wall. There aren't very many of those in this game, to be honest with you. Most of them are in the second quest, but you're going to want to hold on to that secret because that's worth 100 rupees. I'm showing you these things because they're almost impossible to find if you don't know what you're looking for, and because they will help you get started in this game. We can take a trip to the beach. I love the ocean, don't you? By the way, your wallet can hold up to 255 rupees at once. No more than that. Huh. Looks like a dock. I wonder if I can sail off of that. Might need something in order to do that. Huh. It's a heart container. But I can't reach it. I wonder if there's an item that would enable me to do that. Oh look, it's a cave. This is one of the game's several shops. You can choose to buy an item simply by walking over it. Huh. That shield is quite a bit larger than mine. But I wonder if there's a way to get it cheaper. Oh, I can buy more bombs here. That's a pack of 4, just like the one that the enemy dropped earlier. And hey, what's that over there? It looks like an arrow. And now I can select the bow and arrow. Oh, I totally didn't mention the boomerang that I picked up earlier in the dungeon. The boomerang is super useful. You can use it as much as you want. it can pick up items for you, and it can stun enemies. You can walk right through stunned enemies without taking damage. It won't stun all enemies. Some enemies are immune to the boomerang, but the ones that aren't, you're going to be happy when you use it. Ow. You can use it to get through a lot of screens, taking less damage or none at all. Huh, what's that tree doing there in the middle of the path? Very suspicious. Here's another one of the game's shops in this cave here. Wait a minute. That big shield, that's the same as the one we saw earlier, but that looks more expensive. That's crazy. And yes, that key is exactly the same as the key you will find in the dungeons. So if you run out of keys, you can buy more. But, fun fact, there are a lot of keys in this game. You should not need to buy them. Go back and explore those dungeons a little more. What's that? A candle? What could I possibly need a candle for? What does that do? Whoa! It's like a huge flame. That's crazy. That shield is extremely useful. Enemies can't be knocked back beyond a certain point of the screen. It was funny to burn that tree before. Hey, wait a minute, what just happened? Burning some trees can reveal hidden entrances. However, be careful, because sometimes you will find someone who insists you pay for a door repair charge. I'm not joking. So if I go back up, this is the desert that I passed through earlier. Everything is connected in this game. It's very nice. Wonder what's over here. Huh. What a suspicious looking... all these rocks just kind of here. I wonder what's up here. Wait a minute. What just happened? Well, that's very confusing. I wonder if there's a secret on there. Oh. Well, that just went normally. Ooh. He looks mean. Trust me, you don't want to get hit by one of those flying swords. Oh, what do we have here? This is the white sword. This is a sword that is twice as strong as the sword you started with. If you have at least 5 heart containers, you can take it. If you have fewer than 5, you will not be able to pick it up. There is a third sword that is even more powerful than this. However, you will need quite a few more heart containers in order to pick it up, and you'll need to find it. The white sword does twice the amount of damage that the original sword did. Some enemies aren't really enemies at all. Clearly there's something on the other side, but I can't get through it yet. These red guys that pop out of the ground are very good at dropping items, so you can use them to fill up your health. Or raise some money if you need. might notice I'm spending a significant amount of time in this forest here. That's because this forest is actually also the home of the level 2 dungeon entrance. Ow. I was hoping he would drop a heart, but let's see what awaits us in the second dungeon. I'm not actually going to take you much further in my little introduction here. Whoa. These snakes actually charge at you if you are on the exact same row or column as them. In general, there are quite a few enemies that will come after you if you're on the same row or column as them. However, if you hide between columns or rows, they will not notice you at all. It's like you're not even there. Oh, almost. Haha! Sometimes, when you're faced with a large number of enemies, it is helpful to, avoid them. Oh, what's this? I can't throw my sword right now because my life isn't full. However, I can use this. Oops, I opened that door by mistake. Now you'll notice, arrows are not an unlimited resource. When you use an arrow, your rupees will decrease by 1. Also, what you just witnessed was some dungeon rooms have a leader enemy. If you kill the leader, all the other enemies disappear. I opened that door by mistake. I might as well see what's in here. Oh, it's the dungeon map. This dungeon is shaped like a moon. Generally, if a room has an item, it will not have another one. One item per room. Wow. These snakes are rich. They're just dropping all kinds of money. Certain types of enemies have different item drops than others. Bombs can definitely speed up the killing of stuff. However, bombs are a limited resource, and you can only hold 8 of them at a time. So, in general, you're not going to want to waste all your bombs just killing things. I wonder if there's a way to hold more bombs. Oh, you came at the right time. There are a handful of rooms in this game where you have to defeat the enemies in order to move forward. This is one of them. I was hoping I could get them all with one bomb, but no such luck. You're going to encounter some dungeon bosses that have a particular weakness. Wait a minute. I can't seem to damage this one. This Dodongo. I wonder, how will I bring this creature down? And that mystery is where I'm going to leave you. I hope this is enough to get you started. This is a truly fantastic game, and one of the great things about it is how open-ended it is for its day, and how many things you get to discover, and it's a great game. It really is. And I've introduced you to a number of the game's systems and how they work. I've gotten you started on getting a more powerful sword, And I've also gotten you started on how to uncover some of the hidden items in the game using the bomb and a candle. You could definitely do a lot as far as getting deep into this game and possibly even finishing it just using the information that I've given you. However, I'm sure you know that everything is on the internet, especially with a game this old. And I mean, it's been taken apart up, down, and sideways. So you could get everything from dungeon maps, item locations, how to defeat every enemy in the game. It's all there. So you can look up as much or as little as you want. But I would definitely recommend that you first go in and see how much you discover in the first few hours. And use the internet, I'd say, when you need help or when you're not sure where to go next. But in general, you've got your 8 dungeon locations, and there are a few that take a little ingenuity to find. There are a few that are hidden, but the information is there. Um, yeah, it's there, and I hope you have a great time uncovering it. And I hope you enjoyed this introduction to one of my all-time favorite games. So, that said, thanks for watching. I generally do speed runs of this game on Saturday evenings, at least for the moment. Um, and yeah, if you're interested, come on back and I'll show you me taking this game apart. But for now, I hope you'll wonder how to defeat that Dodongo and maybe give it a try yourself. So that's it for me for now, and thanks for watching, and be good to each other. Take care.